Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for coming back to join me on Duality of Wrestling. I'm Christian, and I am here to talk about AEW Double or Nothing 2026. So the show is now in the books, and let's talk about it because there were a lot of fun things that happened. There were a lot of interesting developments, and there's a lot to look forward to moving forward coming out of this pay per view. So let's kick it off. First, it has to be said, the crowd was fantastic. The entire night, they were hot for everything, whether it was mild, whether it was great. The crowd was into everything that went down at the show. Really great example of how a crowd can elevate a good show into a great one and a great one into an exceptional one. So bravo to all of you in New York City who attended or commuted and traveled in to attend. You were a great crowd, really enhanced the viewing experience. Now, first match on the card, Open Cage versus FTR in an I Quit match New York street fight for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. It's a nice juxtaposition from how fun the later Stadium Stampede were. This was a little bit more personal. There was more, violence. There was more edge. Not trying to make a pun, but there we are. To this match, there were some really fun spots. It sort of went as we expected in terms of how the match itself played out. You got the running spike pile driver on Cope through FTR through a table that looked really, really good despite the table not breaking. Liked that spot. Beth obviously came back to a nice pop on the return to beat on Stokely. FTR roughly tossed her into the steps almost immediately after her wailing on Stoke. They set her up for a spear through a flaming table. She obviously moves. Dax puts Stoke through it instead. And then we get, the finish, which was a sharpshooter and spike crossface combo. I say that by meaning Beth pulled out Cope's bat spike with the nails and shit coming out the top of it. And he applied that to the face of Dax. And that led to the I Quit new tag team champions. Nothing unexpected here. We all expected Cope and Cage weren't going to disband as a team coming out of this. This was always going to be their retribution arc completing against FTR. That story's been going on for over a year now if you count the time that Cope and Cage were both out. So we can now officially sort of move on. I do still think FTR will be in this program because I still think we're going to build to Cope and Cage versus Bucks versus FTR at All In, maybe in a, TLC match or something like that. Potentially, other competitors like New Day if they're free to be involved. But I do think we're going to, move in that particular direction. So cool. Finally, on our way to the fireworks factory. Moving on. Speaking of fireworks factory, Okada versus Takeshita for the AEW International title. Dear Lord, this was such a good match. And I said back at... I believe, it was a Dynasty where Takeshita and Okada faced the Bucks in the tag match that sort of set this match up a little bit. That was my match of the year beforehand, and it still may be. But this match is certainly right up there. The fans were hyped for the first engagement right off the jump. You had people chanting, holy shit, before they even locked up, which is ironic considering these guys have been at each other's throats for quite some time, and we're still getting those chants. Again, testament to what a hot crowd can do. Elevate the big fight feel of the match, which is exactly what happened here. You had an awesome opening sequence with some false finisher attempts, and then you had an amazing fighting spirit sequence midway through that, really sort of hit home what the stakes were in this match and who the competitors were in this match and what it meant to them. At one point on the outside, you had Don Callis intervene to stop a tombstone from Okada to Takeshita on the floor, only for Takeshita to come back and hit a brainbuster on the floor and then argue with Callis, really furthering those seeds of dissent between Takeshita and the Don Callis family. We saw Takeshita hit a German suplex variant that I have never seen before. It was like an underneath capture German suplex. Pretty cool. It's not often you see things as a longtime wrestling fan you don't see, frequently, and I've never seen that before. So very cool. Speaks to the innovation factor of both these competitors. Towards the end, you get the Okada dropkick into a Rainmaker setup, but Takeshita is the one who actually hits it. And again, really fun false finishes that got the crowd super hot and invested in this match. Follow that up with another Okada dropkick. Takeshita moves right straight into a power drive knee, and Okada kicks at one. Whew! Whew! Then you had a Raging Fire after a vicious forearm that led to Takeshita getting the win and securing his second reign as AEW International Champion. Props to Takeshita and Okada in what was a fantastic match. Great story. I'd love to say we're wrapping things up, but post-match, you saw Don Callis and Okada in the ring, joined by AEW National Champion Mark Davis and Rocky Romero, gathering around him like they were ganging up on him. And then our boy, Kyle Fletcher, comes back out of nowhere, and then, of course, runs off the Callis family only to turn on Takeshita. Hits him with a brain buster, then hits him with the championship. But there's something I want to call out here that you saw a little bit during this match and the end of this match, and a little bit in the tag match at first too. There were so many attempts by production to get more long shots to sort of get, a grandiose scope and spectacle feel to the show. And that was often done at the expense of getting more medium and close-up shots that could capture facial reactions and emotions from the competitors. And that was an area that was a consistent miss throughout the night. They were constantly trying to show, oh my gosh, look how big this show is. Look at this moment. Let's get a big feel because of how big a moment this is. But that led to a lot of missing of emotional investment on the part of the competitors. You could read it all over their face. You want to get those close shots for that, and a lot of times during Double or Nothing, the production team missed those or opted for different shots for whatever reason. So that was a little disappointing from a production standpoint. Now, let's move on to Mina Shirakawa versus Athena in the first Owen Cup match of the night. I was pretty spot on in taking this, and I really hate to beat a dead horse here because I was not super complimentary of Mina Shirakawa in my preview of Double or Nothing. And she did nothing really in this match to make me more complimentary. In fact, I don't think she looked good at all. Really, I think Athena sold very well the offense that Mina executed in this match. Mina, there were just some things that really looked off. First, Mina was working heel for a good bit of this match, working on the back of Athena's knee, which was a story they told throughout this match, which is a little bit surprising from a staunch babyface like Mina. But you had a Mina miscue on the rope-assisted tornado DDT where she had to get up and do that spot again because it was blown the first time. I'm not going to sit here and be the guy's like, oh, it's a bunch. No, people make mistakes. Fine. But this has been sort of a common thread with Mina Shirakawa in AEW so far, especially in the last 2 to 3 months or so. And then in the very next spot, she goes for the corkscrew tope over the outside, and she barely cleared the apron. I mean, girl got no hops whatsoever off of those ropes. And the note I wrote down is that Mina is not ready for prime time. She is not executing her own offense well. She is barely avoiding getting hurt or hurting her opponent in some of these situations. Put Mina Shirakawa in Ring of Honor, because if this is the best we're going to get from Mina Shirakawa, I don't even want her as a TBS champion, to be honest with you. Maybe give her a tag belt run. If this is the best we're going to get from Shirakawa, I'm out. I'm tapping out. But again, like I said, Athena looked great in this match, really sold the knee very well, sold Mina's offense well, specifically Mina's strikes like her Hurricane back fists looked great. Her selling of the DDTs was fantastic that Mina laid in. Athena wins with the O-face. She moves on in a tournament that seems destined for an Athena win here. So no surprises, little decent bit of disappointment on the Mina Shirakawa side. Now let's move into Jon Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly for the Continental Championship. And Moxley wins by a submission finish. And speaking of things I don't want to harp too much on, Jim Ross joined the commentary booth for this match, and I have the utmost respect for Jim Ross and what his contributions have been to the industry. I read JR's books. I really enjoy JR and what he has done for the wrestling industry. I enjoy him as a commentator. All of that said, woof, this was some of the worst JR I have seen in a while. Dude flat out could not remember Kyle O'Reilly's name. There were no less than 3 instances in this match where he referred to Kyle O'Reilly as kid or this kid. Kyle O'Reilly is not a young man. Kyle O'Reilly is a pretty significant veteran in this industry. So there's no reason that he should be referred to as a kid, even going up against Moxley, because that's not who Kyle O'Reilly is. He's not an underdog. He's not somebody. He has 2 wins over Moxley. That's what the whole story was based on. So it kind of made it even worse that JR couldn't remember his name. And then there was the third time JR did it, Nigel McGuinness has to jump in and go, yeah, O'Reilly. And it was, ooh. I just felt the uncomfort, and it just might be time to keep Jim Ross in more of an advisory role, that he can help talent, that he can help production, because on mic, in a broadcasting role, I don't know that Jim still has it. And I feel so bad saying this. I don't want to pile on an older gentleman who's been suffering with health issues throughout his life. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good to me. But I can't be dishonest and not acknowledge that he had some serious verbal gaffes in this match. So I feel bad starting there, but that's where we had to start. You got some dueling let's go chants for both O'Reilly and Moxley here. Props again to the New York crowd for getting into this. It's not my style of match. It's more ground mat based. It's a little bit more shoot fight based. Not the type of match I typically go for, but I can still appreciate it. We've got another one of those damn receding shots in this match after the strong strike exchange sequence, rather than showing off the impact of those strikes and the facial expression of the fighting spirit. We get another pullback to an extreme long shot. Why are we doing this? Let the guys emote and let that catch and be shown to the crowd and the viewers at home so they can better emotionally invest in this match. Ugh, stop doing it. But a really good ending sequence with O'Reilly doing everything possible to get out of the knee bar ankle lock thing that Moxley had him grapevined on in the middle, really just scampering around the ring while Moxley's anchored in the center trying to get to one of the ropes. Moxley pivots enough to not allow it. O'Reilly forced to tap. Really liked it. You see a lot of those desperation escape things before an opponent eventually submits spots before, but this one seemed a little bit more creative and more natural. From what we would expect rather than what we're typically shown. So I like it. It was a good finish, and you get a post-match handshake between Mox and O'Reilly, which to me puts this feud to bed, allows Moxley to move on into bigger and better things. Now, we move to the next Owens match. This was the opener of the men's bracket. Samoa Joe versus Will Ospreay in the men's quarterfinal. This was a very good match, and I don't want to come across like I'm spoiled as a wrestling fan, because this is a match anybody would want to see. Joe versus Ospreay. It was billed as a dream match, even in the quarterfinals, and I can't disagree. But while very good, this match didn't knock my socks off or anything. There wasn't really a lot of notes I took for this match, to be honest. It was just very good, but nothing you didn't really expect. You had Ospreay starting out the match during Joe's pose intro with an Oz cutter, showing his newfound determination and killer instinct that the Death Riders have instilled. Again, very good match. We end in a muscle buster transitioned into a hidden blade where Joe kicks at one, but then Ospreay hits to the corner, immediately gives us a second hidden blade to the back of the head for the pinfall finish. A very good match. Nothing negative to say about it, but for some reason, it just didn't hit like the dream match I was expecting. So, I don't want to say disappointment, because it was a fun watch. Certainly nothing wrong with it, but maybe a little bit underneath what I would expect the two of them, with their considerable skills, to be able to execute. Let's move on to the other Owen Hart match, which is Swerve Strickland versus Bandito. And that one, to me, had a lot more standout moments. You had a cool version of the Brody King cannonball spot where Bandito does the dog pose and mannerisms, then jumps up onto the apron and does the cannonball from the apron onto Swerve, who's seated in a chair at the outside. That was pretty cool. You had a badass release German buckle suplex by Swerve that looked pretty gnarly with Bandito going into the top turnbuckle. Bandito actually got some really nice face reactions in this match, which is a good sign considering how popular Swerve is. Even as a heel, he's a character people really enjoy. So the idea that the crowd could leave that be and get behind Bandito as a babyface, again, a good feather in the cap to the crowd. Well done. And it shows very well for what Bandito's future trajectory can be, that he can get babyface reactions from a good crowd against Swerve Strickland. The elevated house call sort of thunderstruck spot by Swerve where he balanced on the clavicles of Bandito just to hit the house call while standing on top of Bandito, who's standing up. Jesus, that was cool. Very, very cool. It was immediately followed by a Swerve stomp off the top, and Bandito kicks a great false finish. It got me. I bought it. So very well done. I also noticed that Bandito's frog splash is more of a lowdown, like a D'Lo Brown lowdown, rather than a full-on frog splash. The difference is sort of like you get the hands going lower below the legs rather than a strict pull back, almost like a butterfly stroke. It's a little bit of a subtle difference, but ironically, I like the Eddie style splash more than I like the lowdown one. And that's just a personal preference, but it's something I never really noticed before about the difference in frog splashes that he does. You also saw Bandito hit a poison rana from the apron to the floor on Swerve. God, that guy is so talented. And then you follow that up with a 21 plex when Swerve is on the mat, so deadlifting him up. Bandito is fantastic. So Swerve reverses another 21 plex attempt, hits into a vertebreaker, a really cool transition, by the way. Check out the video, and if you haven't seen it, very cool. Leads to a house call. Swerve gets the Duke. Swerve moves on, and he will face the winner of Brody King versus Claudio in the second round. Given the fact that the first round was against Bandito, I think we can all agree that Brody is likely to go over here and make this Brody versus Swerve 2 in a rematch of Revolution. So, feels like where we're headed there. I like it. Good story. And a great match. That moves us to the women's four-way. Tekla versus Chris Statlander versus Hikaru Shida versus Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's World Championship. I did see the sign of the night during the introductions. Jamie Hayter's coming out after they showed her tying her neckerchief in the back for whatever reason they decided to do. As Jamie's entering, they show a sign that says, "Hey Jamie, nice ascot." Oh, that's good, because I really hate Jamie Hayter's 70s clothes. So, not great. And even if you want to argue that it's a double entendre to get the ass part in there, given that Hayter is usually pretty caked up in matches, fine. That's not how I roll with things. I don't try to objectify like that where where my lizard brain can avoid it. But it was a hilarious sign. I'd just taken it face value. Enjoyed it. You had a fun crossbody spot during this match where Tekla gets caught by Stat and Hayter, and then Shida drop kicks the back of Tekla while they're caught to take all three out. So that was pretty creative, and it was fun. Hayter had a rough hip landing soon after that when Stat closed around her over the ropes. Hayter seemed like she landed hip first on the ring apron. Looked pretty painful. Stat then went for a tope, but was caught by almost a boot scrape by Tekla. She's going through the ring. Great timing by both of them to be able to pull that off. That's got to be kind of difficult, so well done to both ladies for making that look as impressive as it did. And given the interactions we saw between Chris Statlander and JD Hayter in this match, I could watch a best of 7 between these two girls. They were fantastic. They both play the power game. The dynamic and chemistry between them was really good. Their interactions to me were kind of the star of this match. So I would love to see some expanded interaction between those two down the road, hopefully sooner than later. Really good fun power spots in this match between them specifically. The She-Lander alliance broke down in this match as Shida breaks up the Saturday Night Fever pin with a Singapore cane shot. I won't call it a kendo stick. I just refuse. I'm not doing it. Leads us to the ending where they brawl a bit more. Tekla comes in and hits the stomp to Chris Statlander, and that allows Tekla to retain. And she puts all 3 previous Women's World Championships in this match to bed. So she's a little bit nerfed that division, but none of them seemed like significant contenders to her in the immediate future anyway. Tekla's not losing this belt before All In. You know it. I know it. Let's just be honest about it here. That brings us to Stadium Stampede, which was more our fun of the night. And there was a lot of fun that happened in this match. You had everything from Jack Perry driving his Jungle Express bus or whatever it is trying to assassinate Mark Davis after he'd stabbed a note into a golf cart that said, "Wait here, asshole." Jack Perry's a weird character at the moment, but I'm into it. Whatever he has done, he's gone from being like baby Raven to whatever this like dark Steve Irwin is. I'm here for it. It's fun. You've also had special video entrances for both sides. You got like a sort of a walk-up entrance for the heel team, and then the babyface team, they got actually Metallica. And I don't know how much Tony Khan sprung for the rights for that, but they had Devil's Dance play while they did sort of a video package intro for everybody. And that culminated with Kenny Omega looking badass smoking a cigar, very much co-signing as a cigar enthusiast myself. Loved it, but then you see immediately afterwards Kenny coughing, and just retching because he clearly inhaled smoke. And it was just funny. Obviously intentional to get a good laugh out of everybody, but it was a fun spot. It brought us some levity, which is what we got more of in this match. You saw another fun spot during this match where you had Toa Leona had the assisted abdominal stretch on Kenny Omega. And by assisted, it's not just the one guy outside helping pull to get more leverage on the arm. It was the whole heel side. 6 dudes halfway up the aisle pulling like a tug of war to give more leverage to Leona and hurt Kenny in that hold. Again, just a fun little spot that you don't really ever see. It was great. As the match makes its way backstage, Lio Rush out of nowhere shows up doing his drugged out Gollum that's really getting over. And after getting attacked himself, he assists the Hurt Syndicate. So, babyface Lio Rush now? All right, I can work with it. And then more weirdness, while Andrade is doing his female plant spot in the crowd with the pictures and the number exchange, Luchasaurus shows up in a wig like he's straight out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon to distract and eventually shoot mist at Andrade. Oh man, AEW does wrestling great, but they also can do unserious wrestling really well, and this is a perfect example of it. Jericho suplexing Ricochet into an emptied bag of tennis balls? Sure. Jericho setting up a tennis ball machine to shoot balls at Ricochet backstage? Fun. Ricochet using a tennis racket on Jericho, so Jericho opens up a door and there's Tony Storm's butler Luther there with a cartoonishly oversized tennis racket to hit Ricochet with, and even Taz says that has to be Satnam Singh's tennis racket. It was just, this was just a fun match to like break up the severity and consequence of everything and just let the crowd breathe and have a good time. And that's how I felt. It wasn't super serious. It was just fun. I'm also going to call it, Clark Connors has the best damn spear in all of wrestling right now. Teclis is up there for me too. I love the way she hits it, but Clark Connors, man, he is exceptional. Every time I see him, he is a standout. So give that guy whatever kind of more camera time we can, because he's great, especially at executing that spear. And speaking of Connors, during this match, the Bucks, he eats a brutal trash can shot from the Bucks. Then one of them puts him in a shopping cart, can over his head, and rolls it down the ramp. And yes, if you are thinking Millhouse as the Mummy going on his mystical journey, it was exactly like that. The Bucks run him down the ramp until the other one super kicks the can with his head in it in the shopping cart. Oh, speaks to my Simpsons love, speaks to my love of nonsensical at times wrestling. This match just hit on all cylinders for me. There were so many things to like. You had Mark Davis with his the bandage over his eye from a drop toe hold into a chair backstage. Just a good time. Everything else just had a lot of seriousness and emotion behind it. This was just enjoying wrestling. The finish was the babyfaces hit up a seven-way super kick on Bishop Khan, followed by a lion salt from definitely not Chris Jericho that led to the pin. So really fun Stadium Stampede match. I wouldn't call it a spot fest so much as I would say it's a mismatch or a hodgepodge of fun spots. There's a subtle difference there. So that's how I took it. And then lastly, you had the main event, Darby Allin versus MJF for the AEW Men's World Championship. MJF has to walk by an illuminated hair trimmer coming out for his entrance, which is just fun and gives another chance to build up the stakes and gravitas of the match. Whereas Darby gets a video entrance package before he comes out, where he's hanging out under the streets of New York looking like a hybrid of a Morlock and one of the Reaper strain vampires from Blade 2. Now, granted, his super duper long hood rub already makes him look like that, but this really hammered home the imagery for me. MJF can even heal it up in New York, man. He has Justin Roberts announce him as direct quote, not hailing from any of the 5 bullshit boroughs. Oh, MJF, you are just magical. And even Darby gets in on it, and he gets a custom Justin announcement too, where it goes on the Darby's sober tough, never back down from a challenge. He is batshit crazy. So everybody in the company just having fun right now, leaning into the characterization of both of these guys. Great. The match started with 3 consecutive headlock takeovers from Darby. Great storytelling, calling back to the history between these two men. You know, how MJF previously beat Darby, how Darby beat MJF for the championship. Really good continuity. Immediately after, MJF moves from a tope and Darby lands horribly on the back of his neck, which is what they kind of play up mostly through this match. The stories they told pretty much through this match were the back of Darby's neck and eventually his head from a spot later in the match where he jumps off of the video scaffolding and gashes his head while hitting a coffin drop on MJF. And then it's just the toll that this speed run title reign has taken on Darby. It's all been about how this, frenetic pace that Darby's been on as champion will catch up to him, how well he's able to recover, even in match about it. And that's the story that really gets focused on here. We get a package pile driver on the ring steps following Darby missing a guillotine coffin drop on the apron, which he didn't hit it, but just the idea and the way they visualized it with MJF's head hanging off the side, you just felt it in your stomach and in your chest. Like, wow, that would have been a brutal spot. MJF pulls a cameraman in front of Darby while Darby is doing another running tope, which gave us like a POV shot of what it would look like as a competitor with this, energetic, no fear human coming at you and just throwing himself at you. So that was pretty nice. I liked that. Darby has Darby did the coffin drop, gashed open the back of his head. That led us to MJF hitting an avalanche tombstone in the ring, moving into a side headlock takeover. MJF gets the clean pin. No real ridiculousness about it. MJF wins his 3rd AEW World Championship. Brings us to the post-match where MJF, similarly to what he did with Hangman Page at Revolution, poses over Darby, who's strapped into a gurney. Kevin Knight comes out, weirdly wearing like a Canadian tuxedo of all denim, to run off MJF, only to hit a UFO splash on a Darby who's strapped into the gurney. Turning Kevin Knight heel, MJF applauds. I don't know if we're going to get an alignment between those two or not. I kind of hope not. I'd like to see Knight flourish on his own more. Ditto MJF. I don't know if I would have turned Kevin Knight heel here. I don't know if it's how I would have done it. I might have done a speedball and Knight split rather than doing this here. But I'm intrigued nonetheless. I'm intrigued to see where it happens and how it happens going forward, where it goes. We're in for a fun ride, I think. And I'm interested for a program that will eventually get with Darby and Knight. Hopefully Darby can take at least, a month or so off to recover. I'm sure his body needs it. Let him come back at Redemption in, I assume, July to, do the Kevin Knight bit. Give him some time off, man. Darby, you've more than earned, a vacation wherever the hell you want. If it's in the sewers, if it's somewhere nice, wherever you want to be, man, go be at it. You killed it as champion. So that's AEW Double or Nothing. What did you guys think? Did you like the returns? Did you like the turns? Did you like the finishes? Personally, I think I liked pretty much every finish, but I'm curious to see if any of them sort of stuck in any of your craws. Did you dislike any of them? Hit me up in the comments and let me know what your thoughts on Double or Nothing were. And let's get ready for Dynamite. This is, Tuesday as I record this. Dynamite is less than 36 hours away. Let's get it. Thanks again for watching me on Duality of Wrestling. I'll be back to discuss, things after the upcoming Dynamite. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you in the next one.